Hey guys, so scale. This is a part 3 in a small series I do on scale economics for SaaS. And the first 2 you might check out. The first one was on the concept of scale as such. Scale being the improving unit economics due to volume or size. So not just size, but actually better margins, better unit economics as you grow. Which ties into competitive advantage, and it is at its core a comparative metric, comparative to your competitors. So go check that first one out if that doesn't make sense to you. Then in the next videos, I go over the 3 types of scale there are: cost scaling, last video; value scaling, this video; and the next one is going to be distribution scaling. And last in this series, I think I'm going to tie it up by introducing a framework I use to plan for scale in product ecosystems. And I also use this to, let's say, see the potentials in investments before I make them into tech companies. So enjoy. So value scaling is the increased value per unit of product as your number of customers grow. Right? So this is different from cost scaling. Cost scaling is something that happens below the revenue line. This happens to do with decreased cost and increased margins as you grow because you have efficiencies of production, basically, and delivery. Value scaling is the increasing of price or pricing power as you gain more units. So Facebook is a classic example. So from 2017, when their advertising business was already mature, they grew from 2 billion monthly active users and around 6 million advertisers to last year, 5 years later, they grew to 3 billion monthly active users and about 10 million advertisers. So around a 50% increase in the intake of, let's say, customers, advertisers, and let's say units of eyeballs, that's the monthly active users, but they more than doubled their revenue. So they went from 40 billion in revenue top line to more than 80, close to 85 billion in top line revenue last year. So what we're seeing is that they have a non-linear increase in revenue potential while their usage is actually only increasing linearly. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for an increasing pricing power as we grow per unit that we have in the market. There are 3 ways that you can gain this, and I'm just going to walk through each of them. So the first is called indirect network effects. The second one is called direct network effects, and the third one is called, well, branding, essentially, for lack of a better word, but perceived scarcity. So indirect network effects is the fact that when one user group grows, it has value to another user group. This is what you have in a marketplace. So in eBay, you get sellers in, and then buyers gain more value because there are more supply in the marketplace. And as more buyers come in, then the sellers gain more value because there's more demand in that marketplace. So you need both sides to actually grow a marketplace like eBay. So what this creates is it reduces search costs for everyone involved, and it reduces transaction costs for everyone involved. And this is just when you have 2 groups or more that needs to create value for each other, this is what happens. Search costs and transaction costs go down, and then the value to participate in that ecosystem goes up for all participants. I had another B2B SaaS companies. They provided essentially an online virtual inventory of spare parts across a big manufacturing region in Germany. So each individual factory didn't have to have the spare parts in inventory for whenever their production line broke down. They could just source that spare part from one of their competitors that participated in the network. So in this case, all factories are both sellers and buyers in this network, but everybody actually have an increase in value from participating because they supply the inventory. But by doing so, they get access to all the others' inventory, so they can have less capital tied up in inventory while still gaining the security of being able to source a spare part whenever you need it. That is indirect network effects, meaning that one group increases value for another group. And then prices can go up if we get more units overall of both groups. Then you have direct network effects. So direct network effects is just like the telephone, or just like Facebook in the old days, which is every new user adds more value to the network of users who are then more likely to buy or stay. And essentially what this does in any case of a direct network effect is it increases the likelihood that my problem will be solved. You also have that with a lot of data plays. So the more people who participate in some sort of data pooling, the better the data becomes for everybody who participates. Or if you've ever had a survey on LinkedIn or something that says, well, fill out this market report, and if you fill it out, we will send you the results after. It is a direct network effect. I fill it out, I participate in the data pool, I get the results back, who are now better because I trust that everybody else also fills out the report with the same intentions, right? So this is just what that is. The last type of value scaling we have is what are called perceived scarcity. And this is what we often get in brands. So let's use the distinction between a mainstream brand and something like Vans or Carhartt, if you go for clothes, with in comparison to a very luxurious brand like Hermes. So if you have a very standardized mainstream brand like Vans, you say, well, I can buy the shoes and I know they're everywhere and I know that I will be perceived in a certain way if I wear these shoes, and that will solve a problem for me, namely, how do I dress? What kind of shoes should I wear so that I'm perceived in a certain way? I'll just buy these, everybody wears them, so I know I'll fit in, and then that is sort of checked off and solved. I don't have to worry about it anymore. With Hermes, where a pair of shoes or belt can cost you $5,000 easily, and you have to be invited to buy them, it's a different proposition because not everybody is wearing them. Because now the value is in the perception that everybody wants to buy them. So it is the brand's ability to create the perception of demand and scarcity, so low supply, high demand, that makes everybody want it. Essentially what we have here is that we say, well, I know that if I don't buy it now at this price, someone else will, and then I will have lost out. I won't have the opportunity to purchase this product anymore, and then I will, carry the opportunity costs that it entails, which are unknown. So essentially the scarcity plays a little bit on people's risk aversion. I don't want to not have the, $5,000 belt because then, my competitor might show up with a belt and I will be envious, something like this. So you can see this at play also with very high level advisors and consultants. So if you have the opportunity to get, Gary Vaynerchuk on your board, you're probably not going to worry what he costs you because the perceived value of getting, let's say, a celebrity entrepreneur on your board is going to be very high. And if you don't, let's say, strike and agree to the terms, the opportunity might not arise again and you will have lost out, not knowing what it could have done for you. So with these kinds of proposition where brand value is so high and supply is so low, the perceived scarcity is what drives pricing up. And what we're adding here when we're talking about scale is we're adding customers in the market who has demand without saturating that demand with supply. So in order to build brand value, usually you have to balance the supply and demand very tightly, where you're saying, well, it is a premium product, maybe with a premium price, so not everybody can afford it, or we're going to constrict the number of units that we sell while simultaneously building the demand through marketing and so forth, so that there is a higher demand than there is a supply. And then we build the brand over time. So Coca-Cola has done a great job of this. So they have pricing power over Pepsi and other brands. They are saying, well, we are a more premium version of the soft drink, and we can't be found everywhere. We won't partner with every restaurant. We will keep prices at a certain level. So if you want the cheap version, you are welcome to go and buy that. But a Coca-Cola is a certain level of quality and availability everywhere. To reiterate, we have three kinds of scale that scales on value. Indirect network effects, that's the marketplace. Direct network effects, that's the telephone, where the network increases the probability that something will be done successfully. And the third one is essentially brand value, increased demand with low supply. So all of these allows you to increase pricing power. You might not do that. You might also just increase conversion rate. So that is what Facebook did, right? They said it's free And as the number of users started to grow, the acceleration of new users just kept on going faster and faster, right? So they took their pricing power and exchanged it for essentially distribution power. I think that's an option in some cases, especially with the direct network effects, that you have this, let's say, exchange rate between conversion rates and unit price. But the core is the same, that it is more desirable on a per unit level, even though you don't charge the price, as the number of customers grow in your market. So again, remember, this always has to happen in comparison with your competitors, with what the perceived alternatives are in the market. Facebook solves a problem better than whatever else was around to solve the problem. One of the reasons it's hard to grow a Facebook-like social media today is that Facebook is already there, right? So the probability that I will be able to connect with my family is 100% on Facebook, where if I join your new social media, it is still 0%. The indirect effect that I get on a marketplace is really high on certain marketplaces, and then it's low other places. So it is a competitive effect that exists in the market. And the same with brand value. Hermé is a super strong brand. Coca-Cola is a super strong brand in comparison to other brands. So keep this in mind, that it's the same with cost scaling, that cost scaling usually has to do with size in the marketplace, so market share, where it's the same with value scaling. It is only, let's say, reasonably analyzed in comparison to the competing alternatives. So you can see that the mechanics is that, oh, I will be able to gain pricing power as I increase in value, but it is only when comparing it to the competing options in the marketplace that you can try to see it as a competitive advantage, because you have to forecast, where's this going? If I grow at this rate or to this size by X time, how will I be competitively? Will I be able to charge more than my competitors, or grow faster, or have a better profit margin? Which is what you should use scale for, is to map out the competitive advantage or disadvantages you might have in a given marketplace. So never consider it in a vacuum of your business in and of itself. Always consider scale in comparison to who you are up against in the marketplace. Okay, so that's it for me. Check out the previous videos. The first one on what scale is, the second one on cost scaling, this one was on value scaling, next one will be on distribution scaling, and then the last one will be on a framework I've developed to try and map these things out in a product portfolio. Okay, take care.